So one of the most obvious things is just to sort of have a method to sign off on what is the actual approved set of values, all right? Be it the master list or the data system. So here's the undergraduate grades. This is the approved version. It's version 2, and here's the set of grades, okay? A, B, C, D, E, F, and I, okay? And if anyone wants to use something different, like they're no longer, like they're off the reservation. This is the list that is the approved list. Okay. The next sort of thing is to clarify the meaning of those values. So you can add sort of supplemental or curated content around this that you might not just find by looking at the database. So, here's sort of a set of employee statuses. We have AFTS and APTS and AF. Here's just like these are just codes. Then you have a description, which is maybe you'll find within your system. Oh, this is active full-time salary. Then you might have a definition, which is more, this is a short example. You might have a very long descriptive thing for what this means to be a current full-time salaried employee, and that might link to other things like what does it mean to be full-time? What does it mean to be salaried, right? But this is the particular code, and this is what it means. We have this concept, or there's often a concept in the reference data of a roll-up. So here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 codes, but really they're all kind of represent either being an active employee or an inactive employee. Okay, so I guess 6 of these are active, and 4 of them are roll up to being inactive, right? Inactive rolls up to be inactive, retired rolls up to be inactive, terminated rolls up to be inactive, but on leave is active, even though you're your current employee, but you're on leave. The other thing you might say is that you might have some codes that you don't want to get rid of, you don't want to delete from the list, but you don't use anymore. It's still associated with old records or something, so you might want to inactivate, and it's a little bit confusing because I have this concept of inactive rollup, but this means that the code itself is inactivated. So inactivate the flag, or don't use it anymore, and when it went active. And so that's another bit of curated information. So just building up, documentation on what these values mean, to be more useful to people who are trying to use them than what they can find just, again, looking at the tables in the database or whatever. The third set of thing about building understanding is the mapping between systems. So we talked about here, we've got our functional lists and the warehouse and the HR system, and they're all employee statuses with different values in the different lists, and you can map between them. So you can map between the data warehouse that maps up to the statuses in your functional list, or if your master list is the HR system, it can map to systems there. You definitely have, there are reasons you want to map between one system and the next, particularly for integration. We'll talk about that a bit later. For the purpose of documentation and governance, we sort of recommend mapping things to the master list, right? So everything maps to the master, and you don't have to maintain all of the point-to-point integration, because you can sort of derive the rest if you know how things map to your master list. Again, your master list can be a functional list that's a standalone thing outside of any data system, or you can pick one of your data systems as your master, depending on what makes sense per code. The next set of information that you want to understand about it is where does this list live? So where are the list of valid values in each data system, right? So here's the list of departments that you have, right? And so technically where this is to say, oh, this lives in this STB department table, and the code is this field and the description is this field. Maybe it's an inactive flag and date there too, right? So just documenting sort of where, what the validation table is if it exists. If not, you can also define it by a query or whatever, but just to let someone know, like, how do I find the set of valid values that are there? And that's really helpful actually for later for doing change management and monitoring of these codes, which we'll get to in a second. But think of it as a supplemental information to track about these things, about where it lives. You can also go the other way around, like you can be looking at, oh, I've got this validation table and I want to create a list out of it, if you want to sort of start from the technical side. Again, I'd be wary of just creating lists just because they exist. Like, think a little bit more about, like, is this something I really want to monitor and control? But anyway, that's the technical details about that.